how to draw properly the integrated sinks when you're executing integrated sinks on the T-Rex hybrid cycle. So for those of you that are programmers and already know how to use the DMR software, WCAM, what we're gonna do is the integrated sink, we still draw everything polished face up. And what you're seeing here is an 18 by 13 sink. I'm gonna draw that 18 by 13, and if you like, you can zoom in on the screen. So the 18 by 13 sink, we're gonna actually have the miters. When you draw this, you select the function called edit vector, and you click on each segment here. And you go around and you put in positive, because on the sink, it's not negative, it's positive. Positive 45 or 46, whatever you prefer. And you're gonna check a box that's on the right side of the menu. In the middle, it's called bevel. And the bevel feature is gonna look like this, like a little Monopoly house. And that's how you know that they got the right label on there. And so that bevel feature is gonna allow you to do, when you do mirror imaging on the piece, to make sure that it cuts the miter properly. Okay, and the measurement comes out okay. So if you have an 18 by 13, the way that you calculate this, how do I do the build-up pieces? Because we're gonna cut of the integrated sink in hybrid automatically, very quickly and with ultimate precision. Because we're upside down, we're gonna cut all the 4 build-up pieces as well as the bottom piece. So I'm gonna do a cross-section view here where this measurement is gonna be 18, okay? Now, depending on the thickness of the material, because what this is gonna end up looking like from the side, if I could see the piece, this is gonna be a miter, and this is gonna be a miter at the measurement here and here of 18 inches. Okay, same applies on the 13-inch side. Fair? So what has to happen is that this piece here is gonna be my side piece. Okay? And the depth that we're choosing today for this is gonna be 7 inches, right here. Alrighty? Now, when I draw this piece, it's the thickness, obviously, of the material. So in this case, we're gonna use 3 cm. 3 cm, this is 3 cm, and this is 3 cm, of course. The bottom piece is gonna be here. What's the length of this bottom piece? The length of this bottom piece on all 4 sides, because it has to support 4 sides of 3 cm each, is going to be 18 inches plus 6 cm. Or let's call it 1.25 inches if we want to just use rough measurements. 2.5 inches. So this piece here is going to be 20.5 inches. And then the length going into the page would be the 13, same thing, plus 2.5 inches would be 15.5 inches. Does that make sense? Okay. And so what's happening here is that we're gonna have also these pieces here are gonna be slightly different. How are they gonna be slightly different? Well, this piece here is going to encase on the top, and then what we're gonna do is 2 of the sides are gonna be 45-degree angles, like this. Because on 2 sides, we're gonna need to have a little bit of we're gonna need to have this happen so that it encases into 2 sides. And so what we wanna do, what we normally do, is that this long side, it will be like this, with a miter on one side. That will be something like this, okay? And it's going to be 18 inches by 7 inches, which is the depth, okay? The short piece is gonna look like this. With the miter on the top, and this is gonna be a total of 7 inches by 13 inches. I'm sorry, by 15 and a half. Because this short piece is gonna be the one that extends, and the 18 inches is gonna go right in between them. Now, what is the size, or this angle here is 45 degrees, but what's the distance from here to here? Is the thickness of the material, which is approximately 3 cm. So when you draw this, you gotta make sure that from the 7 inches, you do an offset line towards the bottom, which is gonna be the exact thickness of the material, only on these short sides. And then when you make this measurement, this 45 degree, you make an offset this way. So you have an offset line this way, and you're gonna have an offset line coming from the north, which is how you're able to create this line here, where you're gonna grab a modified position function, and what you'll do is you'll simply separate from here to here. After you do the offset line, you can cut right here, hit modify position, and drag this line down to here and snap it, and that'll give you the drawing. That makes sense? So these two pieces are gonna be identical. In other words, but here's the thing, you don't have to draw for quantity in the cuts management. So once you draw one of these pieces, that's it. You don't have to draw two. You can draw one of these pieces, one of these pieces, you draw the bottom piece. The bottom piece would be a larger rectangle than the sink, 20.5 by 15.5. And with this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece, you can basically do your integrated sink. Now you can add a backsplash if you want right here. I don't know if you're gonna have 3 backsplashes, if it's a bathroom. The apron here, you're gonna wanna do a 2-inch apron, in which case you would draw a 2-inch apron here, let's say, and then you'd have your miter here, and this would be a miter here. And then you could just do a regular, you would just do a regular 4-inch splash here, if it only had splash on the back. Okay, and this is basically how you draw an integrated sink. Now, if this was 2 centimeters, then everything changes by 2 centimeters. So this measurement is expanded on all 4 sides by only 3/4 of an inch or 1.5 inches, which would make it 19.5 by 14.5. Okay, by same token, then these measurements here, this would be 14.5 right here, and then this angle and these offset lines would be the thickness of the material. 2 cm, it would be 2 cm, 2 cm, so this angle would be a little smaller. Okay, so this all makes sense. So this is how you draw the integrated sink, pretty simple. Once you're done with this, you lay everything out, hit start cycle, and the miter cuts will be cut first. So the machine will come and cut all the miters where there's a triangle first, and then it'll cut all the straight cuts. This piece will have vacuum pods around it. Vacuum pod, vacuum pod, vacuum pod. You could put a little skinny vacuum pod here and a skinny vacuum pod here. Everything else after this could get quartz blocks only. And we've done it before. This can get quartz blocks, this can get quartz blocks. This you'd put a pot on here. This is usually big enough to just put a pot underneath here. But you could put quartz blocks under these. You put quartz blocks like this. It's similar how you lay it out on the machine. You can put quartz blocks underneath the splash. So the quartz blocks can go underneath the aprons, the small build-up pieces, and the splash cup goes under the bottom basin piece. Now, here's another cool thing about cutting hybrid upside down and doing the integrated sink. If you wanted to, this basin piece, if it's sitting on a pod, what you could do is you could mill a hole here with the finger bit, but not go all the way through. You could leave 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch on the bottom, but at least it's positioned that you could pop it out with a core drill after. But what you could do is you could do this. You could create a recess around it, and then you could do this. You could mill the bottom pan and what we call a convergence here, central convergence. And then this will mill a slope, if you'd like, on the material. It doesn't matter if it's upside down because no matter what, you would remove the polish, right? But you're already in a position where after you cut everything with the blade, you can take all the pieces off, start going to glue, and you could just leave the machine doing the milling of the bottom piece.